This is my first video update coming to you from Limassol, Cyprus. On this Saturday morning, let's talk about some news. And in this video, we are going to focus in on Russian President Vladimir Putin's many statements and his press conference in Uzbekistan during the SCO summit. And you saw the opening video intro where Vladimir Putin was about to meet with Indian Prime Minister Modi, and he was telling all of the press to sit down. He was just like, sit down and we'll take questions real soon. And I must say, Russian President Putin, for having gone through something like 4 or 5 heart attacks, various other illnesses, he looked pretty healthy to me. So that was the quick opening segment of Putin before he was about to receive Indian Prime Minister Modi. And I'm going to put up 2 photos. I'm going to put up 2 pictures. One photo that you're going to see on your screen right now is from the meeting between Zelensky and Van der Crazy, which took place in Kiev. And you can see from that photo that Zelensky is pretty happy to be meeting with Van der Leyen, isn't he? what an interesting photo. It looks like a child being talked to by his mom or something, or his auntie, right? It's like he's getting a scolding, or like a school teacher. It's like a child getting a scolding from his school teacher. That photo over there of Van der Leyen and Zelensky, and neither of the two look particularly happy. Zelensky looks like he doesn't want to be there, and he's just kind of, you can imagine what he has going through his head. He's probably kind of thinking to himself, how the hell did I get into this? Why am I listening to this lady? And you could see that Van der Crazy is probably like Zelensky, you've got to keep the war going. Russians are using microchips they're taking microchips out of dishwashers to power up their fighter jets. Their economy is in tatters, I'm telling you, tatters. And I'm sure Zelensky's probably sitting there going, man, what the hell is she talking about? I'm a comedian, and I know that microchips from dishwashers aren't going to power up fighter jets. That's what's probably running through his mind. And she's like, Zelensky, tatters, I'm telling you, it is in tatters. Tatters. Do not negotiate peace. Anyway, that's the one photo. Let me put up another photo. And this is from Uzbekistan. Here you have various presidents and prime ministers, participants during the SCO. It looks like they're taking a break from their various meetings and press conferences and one-on-ones. And you can see Putin is there, Lukashenko is there, and you can see Aliyev from Azerbaijan, and I believe you have Erdogan sitting there. It's kind of like Erdogan is like the head of the table, isn't it? He's just kind of hanging out there, and it looks like he's telling a story. And all of the leaders there are listening, and they're laughing. Food is on the table. You can see the big globe in the background, like the big globe right there, right? And I wonder what Erdogan was telling all of these leaders, because he's telling a story. You could see it in his facial expression. You could see it in the way he has his hands right out there, and he's like relaying some story to all of them. And Lukashenko and Putin, they're laughing right there on the sofa. And I can just imagine what story Erdogan was telling them. Let me know in the comments down below what you think Erdogan was telling these leaders. I bet you he was talking about the time when Michelle and Van der Leyen came to visit him, like about, say, 2 years ago. And I believe it was in Ankara, and they came to meet with Erdogan, and he only had one chair next to him. And Michelle sat down in that chair, and Van der Leyen was like, huh? And he said, van der Leyen, you can sit on the sofa. I bet you that was the story he was telling them. He was probably like, Erdogan was probably sitting there going like, okay, so there I was in Ankara, and me and Cavusoglu, we said, look, let's put one chair next to me and place your bets, everybody. So I told everyone in my administration, place your bets. Who do you think is going to sit in this chair? And who do you think is going to be relegated to the sofa? And everyone placed their bets, and they said, it's going to be van der Crazy. She's going to be the one to sit in the chair. Michel, he is going to sit on the sofa. Wouldn't you know it? Michel sat down on that chair, and van der Crazy, she looked at me and she said, where's my chair? And so I looked at van der Leyen, the commissioner of the mighty European Union, and I said, Ursula, you can sit on the sofa. And everyone started to laugh. And so then I handed Cavusoglu, my foreign minister, I gave him $10 because he won the bet. Oh boy, I bet you some story like that. Let me know what you think Erdogan was telling these leaders. You know it was a good story because Putin is like cracking up, and so is Lukashenko. Anyway, there's the fair world order on the one in the one photograph, and in the other photograph you have the new world order, the globalist world order, the old world order, perhaps you can call it. But let's get to some serious news now. And but I do think those pictures, they do paint an interesting, those photos do kind of paint an interesting picture, don't they? Let's talk about Putin and his various press conferences and speeches and one-on-one meetings. So let's do this. Let's walk this way and on the boardwalk, and we'll talk about what Putin said. So Putin held various one-on-ones. The big meetings were with Modi, as you saw in the video intro. Another big meeting with Xi Jinping. He had a meeting with Turkey, with Erdogan, with Pakistan. Big meeting with Iran. Very big meeting. It looks like Russia and Iran are going to strengthen their cooperation in a big way. And we do have, pretty much, we have confirmation for the most part. Now, Iran and Russia haven't confirmed it, but you know, it's pretty definite that those Iranian drones were indeed sent to Russia, and they are making a big difference. It seems they're being put to very good use. But that's going to be a big announcement, I think, between Iran and Russia. So keep your eye out for that. And let's get to what Putin said during some of these meetings, and we'll also talk about some of the statements from Modi and from Xi Jinping. So let's see here. Where should we begin? Let's talk about Putin and Xi. Russia and China. So business. They're doing business, right? Russia, China, Russia, India. As the collective West, they're making never-ending trips to Kiev in order to fuel the Zelensky war and to keep Zelensky dedicated to the conflict. The other world leaders, well, they're doing business. You know, they're focused on building this fair world order, and the really big business that is taking place right now is between Russia and China. And so Putin said this with regards to the trade between both countries. He said, multifaceted ties between our countries are actively developing. Last year, the trade turnover increased by 35% and exceeded 140 billion. Putin added that in the first 7 months of this year, the volume of mutual trade grew by another 25%. Putin then said, I am convinced that by the end of the year, we will reach new record levels. And in the near future, as agreed, we will increase the annual trade turnover to 200 billion or more. So trade is soaring, and you have the Power of Siberia 1, which is running. In 2019, 2020, they ran tests for the Power of Siberia 2 to get natural gas to China, and they're already looking at the Power of Siberia 3. So we're just talking about gas and energy. We're not even talking about everything else that Russia and China are working together on. Let's see, Russia and China, according to Putin, stand together for a just, democratic, multipolar world order based on international law and the central role of the UN, and not on some rules that somebody invented and attempts to impose on others without even explaining what they are. Current attempts to push for a unipolar world have taken an absolutely ugly form lately, which the overwhelming majority of nations of the planet find unacceptable. So I'm not so happy with the fact that he talks about building a world order based on the UN, but I think that's just Putin once again sticking to a world order that's based on international law and international norms instead of, and of course that's rooted in the dream of what the UN could have been, but obviously he references how we've kind of strayed off course, how the world has strayed off course from the UN Charter, and is now very much a unipolar world where international law is oftentimes ignored. And I'm sure Putin understands that the UN, I mean, Lavrov has said it many times, but I'm positive that Putin understands that the UN is nothing more than a tool at this moment for the collective West. Anyway, let's talk about Putin and Modi. And this was a big meeting as well. So Modi, he said, as he was meeting with Putin, that today's era is not an era of war. He also said that he views his meeting with Putin as a chance to discuss progress on the path of peace. He also said, by the way, he said India and Russia have stayed together with each other for several decades. So a lot of people, they viewed the statements from Modi as Modi telling Russia that, you know, they have to end the war. But actually, the way I looked at Modi's statements was, India remains neutral. We support the peace process, and we want Russia and Ukraine to find peace. But India and Russia have been and always will be close friends and partners. And so that's how I viewed Modi's statements. Putin, for his part, he said that Russia is prepared to do everything possible to end the conflict in Ukraine as soon as possible. But Putin said that Kiev, let's sit down here, Kiev refuses to talk. So he made it a point to say that Russia's trying, but Kiev doesn't want to talk to us. And then we got to business. Enough Ukraine, and India and Russia then started to talk about business. Commodity turnover is growing, including due to additional deliveries of Russian fertilizers to the Indian market, Putin said, noting that supplies have increased by more than 8 times. Putin said, I hope that this will help Indian farmers to solve the difficult tasks of providing food to the country's population. By the way, Putin also contacted UN Secretary General Guterres, and he said that, look, we have, I think he said something like 300,000 tons of grain that is sitting in the ports that Zelensky, in European ports and Ukrainian ports, that Zelensky refuses to release. And he said, here's the deal. Let's get this grain and let's give it to countries that need it, countries that are in need for free. And then Zelensky, I think, gave an interview and he said, I will only release the food if the food and the fertilizer and the ammonia, he said, and the ammonia only if, I think he said something like only if Russia hands over POWs. That's what he said. If Russia hands over Ukrainian POWs, then I will release the fertilizer and the ammonia and everything else that he's holding up. But Putin on his side was saying, look, all of this grain stuck in European ports, stuck in Ukrainian ports, let's get it to countries for free. Putin said for free, gratis, no cost whatsoever. Let's see what the UN is going to do. Then next we have the big statements from Putin. Okay, so he met with Modi, he met with Xi, then he gave a press conference and he gave the big statements with regards to the conflict in Ukraine. These are the big statements because for the first time we're actually hearing Putin sound off about what's going on in Ukraine, the special military operations, Russia's plan, and this is the first time we've heard Putin speak since the great Kherson counteroffensive and the great Kharkov counteroffensive, where Ukraine gobbled up something like 100,000 square kilometers. I'm joking. They say 3,000 to 6,000 square kilometers of undefended, empty territory in Kharkov. But this is the first time we've heard Putin speak to all of these events that have taken place over the past 2-3 weeks. And he said this. First, he said that the collective West, they want to destroy Russia. Quote, the fact that they've always strived for the disintegration of our country is certain. It is only regrettable that at some point they decided to use Ukraine to achieve such goals. In order to prevent such developments, we have launched the special military operation. So there you have it. This is a statement which is not only meant for the press, but is meant for the Russian public. It's Putin once again telling the Russian people, I told you so. I told you that they wanted to destroy us. That's why we launched a special military operation, and look at everything they've done in the past 6 months. It's all about punishing and destroying the Russian people. So this was his I told you so statement, is how I look at it. Then he talked about the collective West being trapped in a colonial mindset. Quote, these are former colonial powers, but they still live in the paradigm of colonial philosophy. They are accustomed to living at the expense of others, and they still cannot get rid of this paradigm in their practical daily politics. So this statement, this is a really smart statement because this is Putin playing to the rest of the world, right? The rest of the 80% of the planet, 85% of the planet, because everyone understands that all the rules are being made by 15% of the planet, which is the collective West. They make all the rules, they place sanctions, they punish people countries for which they feel aren't complying to their dogma and to their orders and dictates. And Putin is saying, this is the colonial mindset that we're fighting against. And he said they still cannot get rid of this paradigm in their practical daily politics. That's an interesting quote. They're still stuck in this mindset. Even though they're the minority, they're stuck in this colonial mindset. And then he took questions with regards to the SMO, to the conflict in Ukraine. And here's what Putin had to say with regards to the SMO and the conflict, as well as the Kharkov counteroffensive. He said this, quote, the special military operation is not a warning of some sort, but a special military operation. We're witnessing attempts to stage terror attacks, attempts to damage our civilian infrastructure. We respond to this with restraint, but only for the time being. Putin warned that the approach may change in the future. The approach may change in the future. A little bit of foreshadowing from the Russian president. He then said, quite recently, the Russian armed forces delivered a couple of sensitive strikes. Let's say they were a warning. If the situation continues to develop in such a fashion, the response will be more serious. And so he was then asked to comment about perhaps adjusting the SMO given everything that happened over the past week or two. And he says that there are no adjustments to the plan. The general staff makes operational decisions in the course of the campaign as to what is considered a key objective. The main goal is the liberation of the entire territory of Donbass. This work continues despite the attempted counterattacks by the Ukrainian army. Putin then said it was too early to draw any conclusions from the ongoing counteroffensive by Kiev's forces, and one should wait to see how it ends. Now, let me play you a video, and you can see the Twitter watermark on the top left corner of this video. I guess that's who translated this video, or at least that's who the video is attributed to. Maybe this was translated into English. Maybe the captions were translated by somebody else. I saw this on Inyesa's Telegram channel, so I guess I will attribute her as well with the translation, but I'm not 100% sure who translated this, so I apologize for that. But here is a video of Putin in his own words with regards to the Ukraine counteroffensive and everything that happened over the past couple of weeks on the ground in Ukraine.
Павел, хотел сказать, вот вы сказали, что мы видим и там активность, и там, ну, киевские власти же объявили о том, что они начали и проводят активную контрнаступательную операцию. Ну, посмотрим, как она будет результат, чем она закончится.
So that was Putin in his own words. Now here is what he said with regards to various questions that he fielded on the beginning of the special military operation and everything that happened in Kiev, you know, the siege of Kiev, and then on possible peace talks with Zelensky and Ukraine. He said, the troops were withdrawn from Kiev in order to create conditions for the reaching of this deal. Instead of inking it, the Kiev authorities immediately abandoned all agreements. They announced that they would not seek any deals with Russia, but would seek victory on the battlefield. Well, let them. And he also made a statement when he was talking about the fact that Kiev does not want to find any type of peace, and he's referencing not only Kiev, but he's referencing the other two times, specifically Turkey, the deal brokered by Turkey, where it appeared back in March, April, we were very close to a ceasefire, but then Boris Johnson flew into Kiev and he told Zelensky to not sign anything with Russia and to back out of it. He said that Ukraine, they announced that they would not seek any agreements with Russia, but would seek victory on the battlefield, flag in hand. Now that flag in hand is a very interesting statement. From what I understand, in Russian, when they say flag in hand, it alludes to someone fighting with you, fighting a battle, fighting a war, and understanding that they're going to be annihilated and defeated, but they kind of just come at you flag in hand. That's the meaning, the interpretation of that phrase. So that's Putin basically saying, look, we had a peace agreement in March, April. We tried to find peace with the initial beginning of the SMO and our moves on Kiev. And then we tried to find peace even later on. But every time Zelensky decided that he was going to resolve this on the battlefield, well, let them come at us, flag in hand. And finally, let's talk about what else? The negotiations between him and Zelensky. Let's talk about possible future negotiations with him and Zelensky. Putin said they should agree to hold the talks. First of all, they should agree to hold the talks, but they refuse. Zelensky declared that he was not ready and not willing to talk with Russia. Well, if he's not ready, there's no need for that. There's no need for talks. So he gave that statement as well. And finally, this is what he said with regards to the EU and the energy crisis. Putin said that the EU created this crisis itself and now is merely trying to solve it at the expense of others. Facts, as they say, as all the cool kids say. Putin is dropping facts. Well, here's another statement from Putin, which is pretty devastating. He says, the energy crisis in Europe did not begin with the start of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine and Donbass. Not with this. Much earlier, a year ago, if not even earlier, it began, while it may sound strange, with the green agenda. Putin then added that while introducing green energy is important for tackling climate change, multiple European countries opted to ditch fossil fuel energy at once to reach short-term political goals. Spot on. I would add the lockdowns and all of that stuff as well as the beginning of this overall general crisis. And finally, Putin was asked about van der Crazy fielding questions the other day during her EU State of the Union address. And I believe either a parliamentarian or someone in the media asked her about rising energy bills, electricity bills, and van der Crazy said, send those electricity bills to Moscow. That was her answer. Send those electricity bills to Moscow, right? Because it's all Putin's fault. It's all Russia's fault. Russia's economy is in tatters, I'm telling you. Tatters. That's van der Crazy's line. That's what she's going to be saying now for the next 6 months. So Putin then was asked about the electricity bills, and he mocked the idea floated by van der Leyen of sending the energy bills to Moscow. He dismissed it as yet another attempt to shift the problem, the headache, from a sick head into a healthy one. I like that. Shift the problem, the headache, from a sick head into a healthy one. Russia's the healthy one. The EU, van der Leyen is the sick one, I guess. Putin is the healthy one. Van der Leyen is the sick one, I guess, is what he's saying. But I like it. I like it. So that was the SCO. That was pretty much what Putin said during various press conferences and meetings with world leaders. You also had some statements from Modi and from China as well. Once again, as the collective West leaders line up to travel to Kiev and pay homage to Zelensky and the globalist neoliberal world order, the rest of the world, well, they're making business deals and they're talking about payments in local currencies and food, energy, fertilizer, just all kinds of gas pipelines, just all kinds of things. That's where the rest of the world is at. So let's finish it off with a clown world. And this is going to be a quick clown world. This is coming from Ukraine. And we are getting news that in Dnipropetrovsk, the city of Dnieper, as it's known in Ukrainian, Dnipropetrovsk, which is its traditional Russian name, they are looking to change the name of a street, which is currently named after the Russian composer Mikhail Glinka, and they are going to name the street, according to reports from the city council in Ukraine, in Dnipropetrovsk. They are thinking of naming the street Queen Elizabeth II. So from Russian composer to Queen Elizabeth. That's going to be the street name change. Anyway, maybe it's an homage to Bojo and Truss. Maybe they're trying to sweeten things up with Liz Truss. A thank you to Boris Johnson. Maybe they're looking for some cash from the new king, from King Charles. Who knows? Anyway, once again, though, the globalist world order. You got to name a street after Queen Elizabeth in Dnipropetrovsk, right? Pay homage to the globalist world order. Anyway, that is the video. I will leave it there. From Limassol, Cyprus, the Duran.locals.com. Check out Alexander's channel and check out the Duran's channel. Look for us on Telegram, on Rumble, ODYSEE, and of course, BitChute. Take care.